Good evening. What's going on, everybody? So here we got in the building. Shadow Slayer, my moderator in the building. Link to the latest mixtape. Make sure y'all cop that. Take a look if you haven't already. Make sure y'all subscribe to the travel channel. As you guys know, I'm leaving in a few weeks. Like 2.5 weeks. See, we got in here. Diano. What's good, brother? Bluff City Nerd. Uncle Guns in the building. What's that? Supposed to say from 618. What's good, brother? Trey, what's good, man? Craig Beats, what's good, bro? All right, we ain't gonna waste. I ain't gonna waste too much time, y'all. Um, I'll stop for super chats and what have you. I'm not gonna be on here too long at all because it's about to get really, really, really busy for the next few weeks. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring in our guest. The name of her channel is Better Biatches. Why do I? You said I sound like I just did leg day. Nah, man. Like I said, man, I just been really busy. Um, Guest of our channel, name of her channel is Better Biatches, and she goes by Minka. Um, she's known around this space as a Passport Bro supporter. Shout out to Kings of Dreams, who watches the channel, has been on my channel also. And he linked us together, and we're gonna chop it up real quick for a hot second. All right, so without further ado, let's go and bring in our guest, Minka.
Hi,
Hello, good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Um, let's see. Okay. Ooh, some fresh faces in here. What's going on, Urban Guitar Legend? I ain't seen you in a while. All right. So, because I kind of want to go over a little bit, because we was kind of chopping it up back and forth the other night, because I know you wanted to talk before we got on here. So I'm kind of like just going a little bit off of the conversation that we had the other day. Um, in your opinion, why or like what do you in your opinion, like what do you see that's like unrealistic, or what do you consider unrealistic as far as women's expectations?
The long list ad infinitum.
Like a grocery list?
It's just a never-ending list. That's the ad infinitum is just a continuous. Let me add more and add more and add more. And I think it's unrealistic.
Hmm. You know what, know what's funny, because I did a reaction to a Derek Jackson video, and he had the nerve to say that men standards and expectations are unrealistic.
I mean,
I'm like,
some
I'm like, do you think that?
no, some men, most men, no.
Okay.
Like, there's a bunch of men on here that'll say that they would never and all these things, but given the opportunity, they probably would. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like, you need to be this, you need to be that, and really, like, what I in real life experience, uh men just want to be pretty, like, if you bring them peace, they're like all about you. So whereas for women, it's like you have to make more than the woman. You have to be a certain height and a certain age, and behave a certain way with your parents and all these things. And guys pay attention to that too, that they're more willing to overlook a lot of things if the woman does bring peace and stability in their life.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. I think men are a little bit more flexible because yeah, like it's just certain things that we really don't like. It's kind of like, I'm not really gonna take that serious. And then there's other things where it's kind of like, okay, you know what? Let me pull her aside, and we're gonna have to figure this out. Like, you know what I mean? So I see what you're saying. As for women, it's just kind of like,
I
I mean,
mean,
obviously, it's not all women, but sometimes it just seems like they just pick fights over certain stuff, and I'm just kind of like, did y'all really fight about that? Like, that was really necessary? Like, I'm just like, oh. But I definitely so in your opinion, what would be like for a woman nowadays? What would be realistic to you?
What do you mean? What would be realistic?
Like for the ideal woman, what in your opinion, what would be like realistic as opposed to what you see nowadays as being unrealistic?
Actually, it's advice that I got from a lady that is probably like 67 now, and she's been married for a long time.
Wow.
And it was if he's more than 70% of what you want. Because women don't really pay attention to the statistics of what the reality is, meaning like the average height of a man, the average medium income of a man, the average uh, PP size. I don't know how to keep it YouTube kosher. Uh,
Right.
but it really comes, she said it perfectly. It was like, if he's more than 70% of what you want, consider him a possibility, because you may meet someone else that's 70% of what you want, but not that 70%. It may be a different kind of 70%, meaning he may be really good with finances, but he's really cold and shallow. Or he might, versus the, that's like a second 70% versus the first 70% would be he's not well off, but he's not poor either. He's responsible, but he's really, really kind and warm and stable for long term. It's there are different kinds of 70%, but you really have to pay attention to the long term of what is it that you want for your life. And I think what the problem is that women have, I'm in LA, right? And so
Oh
everything,
God. Oh
oh, you
my.
didn't know that? Oh,
I knew
yeah.
I knew I knew you were in Cali. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I mean, I kind of
Mhm.
had a feeling it was LA, but when you, oh Lord.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's, it, what people don't realize is that well, I mean, maybe they do. It's very apparent here of like chase the bag, get the money, get the guy, blah 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 blah, right? Use the man for his finances or security. Um, they're not. They're just, as a woman, when you focus on that, there's so many which ways you can go about this. One is that, like, because there's such a focus on that, they're not looking or paying attention to the things that matter, like their relationship with their family. How do they treat the waiter? How do they treat staff? Are they walking on the right side of the street when you're on the sidewalk? Are you, there's just so many different things that you can pay attention to. And the women are only paying attention to height, six figures, and below the waist. It's really, really limited. And what the problem is that these women only focus on these items and they forget about all the rest. So 6 months later, oh my God, he treats me so bad and he does all this. And so there's not enough accountability for the women choosing these kinds of men, right? Because I'm a really big advocate of, like, we've all been cheated on, we've all been hurt, we've all been, it's kind of like a rite of passage into adulthood, right? To a certain extent. I'm not talking about the horror stories, but just your average stuff. And the issue with that is that if you don't stop to pay attention to, why did I pick this person? How can I pick better? You're not going to pay attention to any of these other things because you're so focused on the bag. You're just going to keep on repeating the same mistake, and then thus creating the narrative, all men are shit, all men are this, all men are that. Sorry, no cursing.
But I think you can, well, I think you can get away with it as long as it's not like, I'm trying to remember how the new guidelines go. It's like, and it's not supposed to be like super repetitive, but yeah, I think
Well,
you.
I'm trying to stop anyways. I've been like
Yeah,
texting.
me too. Me
I've been
too.
texting Duck on purpose. Ah,
Oh man.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. Did you want to continue?
No, that was just it. It's if you're focused too much on the wrong. It's the same thing for guys, right? If a guy is only interested in the Instagram thought that has triple D's and all these things, it's like, first of all, I'm 5'1", so any woman below 5'3" and has triple D, she didn't pay for them herself. Like, that's kind of like a what is it, rule of thumb? Um, rule of
Really,
thumb.
I wouldn't expect you to. You look a lot taller on IG. That's weird.
You know, a lot of people keep telling me that. No, I'm 5'1". I'm like midget status. Um, my mom is Mexican. She's like 4'9", so it's,
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, I got
Okay.
lucky.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Hold on. So what are you mixed?
Yeah.
So are you
I'm
Mexican and what else?
Argentine.
Ooh,
So
Argentina.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
different kind of Hispanic.
Oh, okay. You speak Spanish?
Yeah, it's my first
Oh,
language.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Jeez. I
like my
wouldn't have been able to tell. I mean,
a
because
lot.
I mean,
Nobody does. I'm super tantan. Like we're like I know I'm not appropriate either. So it's that's like the biggest thing I think that we have, especially in LA. Everyone's so overly sensitive about everything. You don't even like with racism, right? You can't not be racist if you're gonna also not appreciate each ethnicity and race's attributes. So like Mexicans, we make tamales, we have brown beans, we have the taco trucks, we have all of these things, right? It's very vibrant. Asians have rice noodles and what is it, curry and all these things, and it's you take a when you want everything to be the same, you take away the value that it brings to. So
oh, okay.
but
Wow.
yeah, both my parents are immigrants, so first generation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What? Wait, what's that?
Ooh, first generation.
What does
Mm,
that mean?
I'm just saying.
What are you saying? It's like the best when people are like, I'll just say, Will, what is it that you're saying?
I'm just saying. This country has a way of changing people. It's a lot of brainwashing.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky though. My mom's super like my parents pretty much stuck to the traditions. So I wasn't one of the biggest issues I had coming into the manosphere and like being around all this stuff is that I thought that all women were raised the way that I was. And I had a mom that really like focused on every single thing in this world to prepare me as a woman in the world, not just like, oh, you can have everything you want. It's really like preparing you because it can be bad sometimes. And I'm looking around at how like other women view things and I'm like, damn. No one's saying that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, it's really weird. It's the shame in this country is so one-sided now. It's kind of like when I see women that like kind of try to shame guys getting passports, and I'm just kind of like, do y'all not see what's going on around y'all? I'm like, men, y'all literally got men walking around feeling like they gotta walk, like they gotta have a muzzle over their mouth every day. It's like you literally can't. It's like you literally get canceled for saying water is wet. Like seriously, like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't like being handcuffed like that because
Well,
I'm like, because I've always been like a straightforward person. So it's kind of like now it makes me, it comes across like I gotta think too much before I speak. Like even on YouTube, like it's annoying.
right. Well, and that's kind of where I come in actually, because I had tried to figure out what my place was, and my first introduction was with Black Pillars, and they kind of like snapped me out of it, where I came to reality, and I was like, oh my god, it really is like this. And then the I was over at Midtown. They really emphasize the laws that are placed that are not for men; they're against men, and how much you guys really do uh, stake on the line when it comes to marriage and bringing legality into your family home, whether it's marriage or kids or divorce or whatever, right? And so I had already like known a bunch of passport bros, and the funniest thing is that like on one aspect you have women that are having unrealistic expectations that are, and it's not 20%, it's more like 30% that they're choosing from, but it's still pretty low considering there's a whole 70% of men that are able and willing, right? So incel rate actually shot up in the last couple of years, and then you had the passport bro movement at the same time. So to me, it's kind of logical sense, right? If you have a cup and it breaks, you're either going to go buy a new one or you're going to super glue it. Well, you don't have any glue, you went to the store and you got a new one, right? And so the funniest thing is that passport bro wasn't, and Guns is a veteran, and he was one of the first people saying this, which I was laughing at, is that passport bro is just military with a different name, right? It's been around for a long time, and it wasn't primarily black. It's everybody. And but what's interesting that happened is that because there were so many black men getting their passports and making a movement of telling each other like, "Hey, there's so much more in this world. Go get your finances in order and go get your passport." It somehow threatened a whole entire community of black women, which again, and this is the part that I like to harp on, because we're not careful enough with these narratives, right? The narrative is black men are getting their passports and leaving and going and raping and pillaging overseas for third world countries, when in reality the men that I've met are either, if they do have someone overseas, they're marrying them or they're living with them, they're taking care of the woman's family, whether it's the kids, whether it's the grandparents, parents. They're buying houses there, they're buying condos, so they are actually being a part, they're immersing themselves in each community, right? The second part was that there's a lot of black men that are saying, we're going to Africa to find black women that are more traditional. Come at me now, black women in the Western world, which I find really, really funny. Um, but the third thing that's the most interesting is how many women, and I don't want to say just black women, but women in general have an issue, and they harp on going like they literally go on their phones and they're like, I don't care about passport bros, but you find hundreds of thousands of these videos. So if you don't, and we all know about women, if they didn't, you can't hate something without loving it, right? So if they're so passionate about it and they don't care, why are they posting so many videos? It just, one plus one does not equal three, right? And so this whole like, so like I said, I've already like known the sectors and everything. It's just been interesting to find, to I guess one of the ladies that's more associated with Midtown Good Mother was telling me women sort out the women, men sort out the men. And that made the most sense, because there's also people telling me that women don't belong in the manosphere, but they're here. So you get straw number one or straw number two, because the straws that are out there currently aren't that great of a you know what I mean? uh, and we've had some issues with some crazy women. So
Oh my God. Yeah, I hear you on that. So I got a question.
mhm.
This might be a little bit of controversial, and I know some women hate answering this question. Some women even hate this word. I mean, you say this word, it's like a cuss word nowadays. I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube start demonetizing you for saying this word. But in your opinion, what does being submissive or we'll say compliant mean to you?
So I actually started a girls' night, having women on a panel and talking about different laws and a lot of the topics that we talk about. Um, and one of the biggest issues I see is the lack of, or the miscommunication. So men like to label it as submitting, which has a negative connotation. And the reason you get so much upheaval from women is because back in the day it was like, bitch, do as I say, right? So, and women don't like to hear that. They're like, oh no, I don't want to go back. No, don't put me back in the cage. So, what I started doing was I asked the ladies if they would be willing to trust a man blindly. And that's what it means to me. Being submissive and subservient comes with that trust factor. You are such a leader that I know that the rent's being paid. I know that the bills are paid, whether it's that we're 50-50 and I'm just giving you the money or whatever. You're better at that stuff than I am, right? At the man. Whether it's like we're out and about and something happens, he's there to protect me. There's a lot of different levels or examples that you can give of a man displaying that kind of worthiness, if you will, of a woman trusting him to be subservient and submissive. Because what a lot of guys maybe don't realize too is that when you do have a decent woman and she does feel safe with you, she does whatever the hell you want. And that's just a natural thing. And that's the thing that I tell guys all the time. If you are dating a woman and you've gotten to know her and it's getting serious, pay attention to what she's doing. Is she like making the coffee the way that you like it? Is she asking how your day was when she knew that you had a work meeting? If she's paying attention to your life and trying to insert herself or be helpful, that's a natural way of knowing that she actually is very much into you. Right. And so, but if you don't have that and you continue the relationship, you can almost guarantee she wanted something else or she was complacent. um it's just it's but again, like what I was trying to say was that most women that I know that are decent women, I'm not saying good because we're not crazy, right? um is we really do want to do whatever the man wants to do when we really like him. It's the freaky stuff, the kind of food you eat. You want to, I mean, you really mean to tell me that girls are going to Dodgers games and basketball games and all these things, not just not separating, excluding the ones that are there being thoughts and chasing clout, but just the random girls. You really think that they're there just because they thoroughly enjoy it? There's too many women for that to be true. There's
Right.
too many.
Got a point there. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That, yeah, that's actually legit. Uh, so so let me ask you this: do you think so? When it comes to a relationship, do you think the man should be into the woman more, or vice versa, and why?
I think it should be both.
Hmm.
Uh, and I only like recently thought about, I've been taking like a hiatus from streaming the last 2 weeks, and I only recently thought about this because the reality is when you are an adult and you're ready for a relationship, that relationship is not going to be your end all be all, right? You have your finances, your work, or your hobbies, or your friends. There's a lot of things that don't make that person is a priority, but they're not your end all be all, right? You're not sitting at home. What is he doing? What is she doing? Blah blah blah. Because then that's when it becomes a little toxic because you gotta have something to do. um, but I have noticed that it's really like I think that it works best when the guy is really after the woman and then reels her in, and then the woman is like obsessed with the guy, and then the guy gets busy with work or whatever he's got going on, and the girl's like, "Why isn't he paying attention to me?" So it's after noticing these different things, and I've talked to a lot of married people, it's like it comes and goes. There might be 1 month where she is completely obsessed with him, and then there's the next week that he's obsessed with her, but she's I don't know, doing her hair or had a nervous meltdown or whatever. It just, there is something to be said about it's not 50-50, and it's not who likes who more. It's each person 110%. That's
Okay.
also comes to liking.
Yeah, you know what, that's actually, I see where you're going. It's a little bit of give and take. I remember because when they had that interview, because I think I did a reaction to that too, when Michelle Obama did that interview, when she's saying how her relationship with Obama was kind of a little bit of give and take. She was saying
Perfect example. Perfect.
perfect example, because she said there were times where I was giving 80 and he was only giving 20, and then there was times where it was vice versa. So it's like, I guess it just depends on how long y'all been together, and
Yeah, but
whatever the status of the relationship is,
you
and
can even
like I said, just a little bit of give and take. That makes sense.
Yeah, but you can even see it in the beginning because people like to harp on the beginning stages, right? Even in the beginning stages, look at what a guy does. He goes after the woman, gets goes on a date with her, doesn't call her for 3 days afterwards. 3 whole fucking days. Sorry, 3 whole days, and we go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because we're like why hasn't he, what happened, right? The shock value, you're reeling us in, and then when you do come back, you're cool and collective, but we're right there ready, right? So and then after that, then maybe the girl gets pissed off and she's like giving him the cold shoulder, and he's like, baby, come back, and she falls for it. That's why I say it's not one more than the other. It should be both people equally as interested, but it's going to come off one person more than the other every other week, probably. It's just, you know what I mean? It's a lot of these things I'm realizing that have been harped on are just so unrealistic and not tangible in our modern society. We're not going back. There's no rewind, right? It's this is what it is. What do we do to make it work? And one of the biggest things is women make up 40% of the workforce now, and at a lot of times do make more than men. So it's harder for them to find men on that level. So I think one of the things should be women start dating down in the financial institution, because that it's only then, but then the man also has to be okay with like making sure that everything else is taken care of. If she's like, let's say, making 100,000, 200,000 a year, right? It makes sense. And it doesn't mean that he has to be at home taking care of the babies and cooking and cleaning. It could just be that he's fixing the house and still doing manly things. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean changing the feminine and masculine roles. It just means how are we going to fine tune them in this modern day society that's all sorts of messed up.
You know what? It's funny you mention that because I use my own parents as a perfect example all the time. So my dad, for all I know, most of his life, as far as I can remember, he was always um, a janitor. Never really made a whole lot of money. My mom, however, was like a senior underwriter for like a big time life insurance company. You probably heard of them. They're called Western Southern. Western Southern.
I
They're
think
like,
it.
yeah, they're like one of the insurance company that promote the one of the big tennis tournaments every year. So my mom used to work for them, and she retired making like 70, 80,000 a year. So that's what, like top 20% nowadays. So
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't
but
even have to get into the financial portion of it. Also, looking
right,
at the longevity of a man's life with a good woman versus a man's life without a good woman, it's substantially different.
right.
Men do live longer when they have a good woman behind them or with them or whatever you want to, however, whatever makes sensitive people happy.
I, I believe that because my dad just turned 75 this past year. So I believe you on that one. Oh, whoa, hold on. I gotta stop. KMO with the $100
Hey,
super chat. Thank you, young sir. Man, gotta give it up for you.
Down the
Yes,
Mongo.
sir.
Bang, bang,
Shit
bang.
like that. Shit
Thank you,
like that.
man.
Shit like that.
Said big shout out to you, brother Rome and BB, as a retired service member myself, whose career was spent mostly overseas. I'm absolutely disgusted at the state of relationships here back in my own country. Operation Mass Exodus is in full effect. Yeah, I've been saying that for about the past few weeks. Like I sense it coming.
yeah.
It's
Thank you
it's,
for your
it's
service.
looking bad. Thank you
Thank,
for the super chat, KMO. I appreciate you, brother.
I just wanted to say thank you for your service, KMO, because it's
Yeah, thank
that's
you.
one of the guys, so the guys that really like woke me up was like Uncle Guns, Self-Made, Caduceus, Rishi. Those are my like group, and QB Kings. It's but there's Caduceus actually was hanging out with some guys that were in Midtown, and we're also saying, there you go. uh and these are men that are veterans, and when they talk about it, they're like, when we came back home from the war, we were discarded. And there's not, and this is years and years and years ago. This is like the 1940s, 1950s. They come back home and feeling discarded, to this day saying that it's a huge issue. There's issues that we're not being reasonable on. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm. Wow. I was gonna say because I got an uncle. He didn't serve, but I think they said he did his training. But apparently, my mom has not been able to. My mom said she hasn't seen him since he came back. and apparently he came back with a white girlfriend, and supposedly like he was like worried that they were gonna say something, and I'd imagine so because this was like years ago. I'd imagine this was probably like in the '60s or '70s if my math is right. So I'd imagine he was probably a little bit nervous, but apparently last time they heard of him, he was somewhere in Seattle. I'm like, I was thinking about seeing if I can like try to possibly connect dots and find him, but I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like a goose chase for real, for real. Um, Last question. I gotta ask you this, and this is gonna be funny, especially considering you in LA. Can you please explain to me how this make any damn sense? I'm probably gonna make a TikTok clip about this. How in the hell do y'all women be over here talking about y'all independent and then always want to lead with how much money y'all make, but only to turn around and say y'all want a man to pay for everything? Can you please explain to me how that makes sense?
So
I've been trying to make sense of that for a while. I can't get past it. I'm trying to understand.
So first of all, don't categorize me in those people, okay?
She said, "Bro, don't count." Oh.
um, I don't talk about how much money I make unless I'm like specifically asked, and it's I will say this: you have to be reasonable with the location that you're living in, right? Well, actually, let's leave that for after. First of all, it's a part of the delusion, right? So, and I talk about that a lot. Is even as growing up, I had very traditional values instilled in me from my parents, but even on a societal standard, there's always this idea of someone's going to come and rescue me. Someone's going to come out of the woodworks and he's going to be the knight in shining armor and he's going to make more and blah, 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 Cinderella story, right? And that's really what it comes down to is that while we were being fed this as children, as we were at the same time, we were also told you can be anything, you can do anything you want. The world is your oyster, have high expectations, you deserve it, you're a 10, all these things, right? So they really have implemented where they've, on contrast, have been telling men, don't do this, don't do that, you can't say that, you can't walk this way, you can't talk, you can't walk behind a girl that way, you can't, there's so many you can'ts. Women were raised with you can, right? And you deserve. Whereas
Uh,
men were raised with the world's not going to give you anything. And that's the complete contradictory and why we're in the position we're in. So you have these women that were raised to believe in Cinderella story and at the same time raised to believe they can do anything that they want but still deserve whatever they want as well. And so now you get women hitting the wall and all these things. I keep saying I'm like in my late 20s I went through a really bad breakup and I signed up to that. I'm like I deserve and blah 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 blah. I was on this kumbaya road, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the women that I was listening to in my 20s that were hitting towards the end of 30s are now in their mid 40s and I'm in my early 30s and they're still not married and they're still by themselves and they're still at home and they're still with no kids and they're still without a family and they're still living their best life. And anyone can say whatever. And I mean, you've seen the trending thing. There's nothing wrong. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with a woman traveling around and making her money and all of these things. It's wonderful. If anything, you actually do get a higher caliber of men after you being respectful, right? Not being respectful is a different story. Um, but now we're in the state that we're in. With all the women, yes, you can, you deserve, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, you don't deserve. The reality is, you may not be a 10 all around. The reality is, this is what most men make. The reality is, uh, you still want a man to come into your life and be that man, per se, that alpha, whatever. But you're such a bitch. Nobody wants to be around you. Nobody wants to talk to you. You have an attitude for everything because you're so in your masculine. I gotta prove. I gotta be. I gotta blah 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 blah. That Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I have
All
to
right,
check.
good.
That was a close one. I had a candle that I forgot about because
Oh yeah. You don't want that.
I'm a woman. So, uh, it that's what it is. It's men were raised with realistic, the world's not going to give you anything, work for whatever it is that you want, and all the you cannots, and women were raised with all the you cans and you deserve. It's so I'll tell you this, it's a lot of people are confused on my personality because on my Instagram it looks like I'm a hoe, but I'm not, and I never go home with guys, but then it also looks like I'm a drunk hoe, but I'm sober for 12 years in AA. So I got sober when I was 19. So there's like a bunch of like confusions there, right? Uh, in my late 20s, when I was starting my business in marketing and doing a bunch of stuff, I was very much approaching it as a man because I thought I it's my mom and I talk about it all the time in business. Like, you gotta be firm with like, this is business, because a lot of guys will like try something else. It's weird. Uh, so I was a bitch. I really was. And I was really, really like aggressive in my masculine. A guy would like open my door and I'd be like, I can get that myself. I wouldn't say feminist, but I'm very much masculine. And if you're that way in work, it's extremely, I don't know if it's possible to
Right.
turn
Hard to
that,
turn it off.
yeah, to turn
Yeah.
that button off and be sweet and docile in the evening. I just don't see how that can happen. It didn't work for me, I'll say that. Um, and that's one of the things that's actually happened, why I say I love the manosphere, right? You can be here and take it one of two ways. It's misogynist and it's this and it's that, or you can shut up and like, I had done enough work where my childhood wounds, if you will, or all those insecurities were out the window for the most part. So I was able to shut up and listen. And through a lot of different experiences, I've never been so much in my feminine energy ever. And you know what the funniest part is? I started making more in my business being in this feminine energy than when I was masculine and aggressive. And I also, well, and I also like in dating, like I'm not looking. Number one, I've never wanted like the multi-millionaire, just because statistically, a lot of them, if they're my age and they're that way, then they probably are new money, statistically speaking. And with that comes a lot of like, I didn't get to, no one ever looked at me, I'm entitled to whatever I want now because I have money. And a significant portion of millionaires are really weird, and they require and want really interesting things.
Yeah.
And and right, and so that is not talked enough about in regards to women and viewing these men, because they'll say get that bag and they'll do the whatever deal it is that they're doing as a sugar baby or an escort or whatever. But I know these girls, I know the horror stories, I know. And it's ladies, you're better off not dating a millionaire for the most. Statistically speaking, you're most likely going to get a weirdo and you're not going to be happy. That it's below that, you're going to be pretty reasonably happy. It's weird. And it's not to say that all multimillionaires and all these things are weird. It's just a significant portion that are not married.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. You let the people let you know where they can find you at. And any last words?
Yeah. You can find me at Better Biatches on YouTube, and all my socials are linked there. Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, okay. Before you go, well, I'll say this in Spanish because I know everybody don't speak Spanish. Uh, cuántos años tienes?
31.
¿En serio?
Yeah, why?
Oh, te ves bien. Okay.
Porque estoy contenta.
All right. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go. Adios.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining the show. All right. Please subscribe to her channel. She has been welcomed into the Manosphere and the Passport Bro movement from Kings and Dreams and other guys that I'm familiar with in the space. I've also done a reaction to her before as well too. Um, KMO, man, again, brother. Where you at, bro? Again, man, thank you for that, brother. I appreciate you, bro. All right. I will not be going live tomorrow. Y'all won't see me going live again until next weekend. Um, kind of working on some things behind the scenes, so we'll see what's popping. Might end up doing a live reaction because somebody sent me some great content. All right. So, man, until I see you guys tomorrow, man. Well, y'all will see me tomorrow with my uploads, but as far as live, y'all won't see me till next week. All right. So, man, y'all know how we ride out, man. Deuces.